Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started, and we want to thank everybody first and foremost before we jump in for taking the time to sit and be present with us throughout this next hour, so that we can dive in a little bit more into the topic of embodiment and how profoundly impactful and life-changing this work can be, if you allow it. So glad that you guys are here, and we're just going to run through and do like super quick introductions about who we are and sort of how we came to this work, or what this work has done for us.
Hi guys, I'm Allie. I was a burnt out registered nurse working 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and just having to come to terms with the fact that this career path that I had chosen and worked really, really hard to accomplish. I finished a master's degree, took 2 promotions, had kind of crossed all of the checklist of items of things that I thought that I wanted to accomplish in my life or thought that I should accomplish in my life, and took a look around and just realized I wasn't being very fulfilled at my soul level by the work that I was doing, and needed a change, was like yearning for a change, and decided to kind of go on my own path, and am now a self-love and relationship coach, with just this passion of guiding others back to this innate truth within themselves and helping them create the life of their wildest dreams.
So good. Yeah, and so I started my healing journey coming out of some like deeply traumatic stuff like addiction and abuse and all of that, and I got to a place to where I sort of plateaued and things stabilized, and I got away from that part of my seeking, right? And then I had children, and I realized very quickly that I wasn't pouring into me at all. And so I was so disconnected from who I've always felt like I was at my core, and so disconnected from anything at my core. And then I started to see that sort of disconnect and that lack of fulfillment manifesting in my journey with motherhood, because I was snapping on my children and screaming at them. I was so activated all the time, and I didn't know what to do with that energy. Um, it hit me, that I was repeating the same patterns, the same learned behavior that I promised I would never, ever, ever do. And so that is when I really sort of dove back in to just like understanding what's here. And that work has changed, this work has changed everything about me and about my life in every way. Like it's just, yeah, so good, so juicy. So and before we jump into the rest of it, we wanted to start off just to take a few minutes to drop in. And so we're just going to do a few minutes of breath, and like in what we will do with this one is we'll take a couple of minutes to really drop in, try to drop out of that structured mind, and then we'll do like 2-ish minutes of active breath. The breath we're going to do tonight is called the Halo Active Breath. So it's very similar to those deep cleansing breaths that you may have done before. So it's in through the nose and out through the mouth. And it's just, the point here is not intensity. The point here is just to drop in and to really connect with what is here, what is present in the body, and allow for that experience. So full permission to just let it feel good, find the rhythm and the pacing that feels just like beautiful and delicious for you and your system, and stay there. And I will prompt you through it, and it's going to be, and then we'll come back. And so total, it'll be just a little over 5 minutes. So Allie, if you can tell me how we are on audio really quickly. Can you hear me okay with that music? Okay, Beautiful. Okay, so invitation to just, if it feels comfortable, if it feels safe for you, to let your eyes fall down, fall closed. If that doesn't feel good, full permission to just keep a soft gaze. And just let yourself arrive here in your body. Noticing any feelings, any sensations. Noticing any thoughts, letting them go just as quickly, just as easily as they came. Drifting by. And maybe if it feels supportive, bringing a hand to the heart space. Taking a deep cleansing breath, just a couple deep cleansing breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. Setting your intention here for this call. Feeling the breath fill your lungs, fill your belly. Just sighing it out. Allowing the awareness to drift towards the heart space. Feeling that heart expand and open. And when you feel ready and in your own time, invitation to activate that halo active breath in through the nose, out through the mouth in a rhythmic loop in a cycle. That's it. Letting it feel good. Letting it be easy. Letting each breath sink you deeper into who you are. What is here? Breathing in light. The breath move that light through the body. And breathing out anything that is blocking you, keeping you held down, anything that's not serving your truth. And just a couple more rounds of this halo active invitation to see how much deeper you can drop in, just a little deeper here. And when you feel ready, take that breath in for a top hold. Take it in through the nose and hold it at the top. Feel the expansion. You are here now. releasing and returning to your natural breath when the body is telling you it is time to do so. Feel yourself, feel your awareness floating back to this space, noticing the support beneath you and returning and opening your eyes as you feel ready. All right. Okay. With that, yeah, we'll jump in. We'll get started. So Allie and I were talking about this before we were planning for this masterclass. And we do things differently, I think, in a lot of ways. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And when we were planning it, I was like really in my perfectionist self, and I was really stressing over like knowing what we were going to say. And Allie had this really beautiful idea of like, because we had just talked about it and had this amazing fire conversation on the phone. And she was like, why don't we just like keep it conversational, keep it like a podcast? Like, let's just talk about what we know. And so that's what we're going to do. We're not going to, it's not going to be super structured and um, how most, I think, master classes end up being. And not that there's anything wrong with that. For this, though, it felt a little restrictive, sort of. So, yeah, so we're just going to roll with it and do things in a way that feels good and authentic to who we are and what we believe and what we're building together. Um, so we're starting off with,
Yeah, let's talk first about the problem and a little bit of the science behind that mind-body connection.
yeah. So for me, the biggest thing here is understanding, without going too much into detail with the science, is understanding that the mind body connection is sort of like the foundation on which everything, and with us, how it runs, right? And so the mind is constantly signaling to the brain, and to the body, and observing the body, and vice versa. The body's always signaling to the mind and observing the mind. And they're constantly working together, sending different chemical signals to one another so that the brain can think the way the body's feeling, and so that the body can feel the way the brain is thinking. And that is how we sort of stay in a cycle, in a loop. And this is why when we want to go and create change, it can be really hard. The reason for this, the way that they work so closely, is because they want to make life easier on us. So the things that we do on a day-to-day basis, like drive, wake up, brush your teeth, shower, all of the things, right? Essentially they learn how to do that sort of subconsciously, and sort of see it like a computer with programs running in the background. um, and that's what happens, and it wants to do as much of that as it can for us. And what happens when it becomes super efficient at its job, we end up basically living on autopilot all of the time, running on programs that are running in the background, and not having to really activate our conscious awareness, um, or be present with where we are and what we are. And so that causes that disconnect there, right, with the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was talking to Katie about how I see that, that same thing that she's talking about, that connection between mind and body, when I do my work with my clients and my self-love and relationship coaching. We talk a lot about feminine and masculine energy, and we use that as a layer on how we can explain and just a way we can perceive our world. And when we take that conversation about mind and body connection, and we look at it through that lens of feminine and masculine energy, we can really see the ways that our connection to our body has been forcibly bypassed
Mm.
because of the disconnection and the inequality that exists in our society in feminine and masculine energy. And specifically, our feminine energy is our resting energy, it's our receiving energy, and receiving in a way of like allowing ourselves to be fully loved, allowing ourselves to be fully seen and held by our loved ones. Our creativity, our sensuality, all of the things that our traditional society tells us to kind of put on the back burner, to push down and to keep kind of a handle on, so that we can go out and use our masculine energy to serve and to give in our communities, and for our loved ones, as is what is our traditional role as women.
Right, right. And what you were saying about um the masculine being so related or identified there with the mind, and then the feminine being the body side of it, like that feeling where the mind is the thinking. So it's like, and that is right, like that is the thoughts are the language of the mind, feelings are the language of the body, and it's very similar if you look at it from that masculine and feminine with the imbalance of energies too. And I think another issue that exists in our culture is that we live in this culture that like we shame even children for having temper tantrums, and especially if it's done publicly, because, and we were talking about this earlier too, is like in this way, in this our mind body connection, the way that we're wired, the way that that is set up, it's a very primitive system, and it works very well. It's a beautiful, brilliant system. um and we no longer live in a primitive world. So when we have that, say something happens in our external world that activates us and angers us, for instance, and we get activated into some sort of a fight or flight response, we can't just go up and like scream at the person that, or punch the person or whatever, we can't just respond in that way. So um and without having some sort of an embodiment practice or somatic experience to process that energy, it gets stuck in here. And the only other way it knows to manifest is in things like like an increased heart rate, which for a prolonged period of time with that could cause high blood pressure and all kinds of things, right? So you start to even see like physical effects here, because we as humans are the only animals that can actually activate ourselves in that way with thought alone. So, and we obviously spend a lot of time disconnected from our body. And when we do that, we're future tripping, or we're freaking out and reliving stuff from the past, which keeps us in an activated state, not in a regulated, embodied state. And when we're in that state for a prolonged period of time, those hormones start to like really cause a lot of wear and tear on our body. We start to have actual disease and sickness and everything like that, because our sympathetic nervous system is now basically stealing energy from things like our immune system and other systems that we need to stay healthy and okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and two, it causes, tension and tightness and stiffness and just pain and swelling, like all of these physical symptoms that impact us on a daily basis as well. And it's truly amazing once you start to do this work, you'll start to notice how much of that like dis-ease, anxiety, like how much of that feeling is truly in your own control and in your own power. And when we regulate our own nervous system and we tune into our body, into those sensations, we're able to clear away that energy that's stuck and stagnant and sticky, and really feel clear and in flow and aligned. It can't exist. And that makes me think of, what is that quote you said earlier that was along that same lines?
Yeah, it's an anxious mind cannot exist in a calm body. Yeah.
Yeah, that I
And
love
again,
that.
that's that mind body connection. That's that constant, there's that constant communication. And even going further into the science, like we actually get with that cycle addicted to certain emotions in the same way that we get addicted to drugs in our bodies. Like our cell receptor sites, everything start to adapt to be in that state, where we're completely disconnected and disembodied and like flooded with all of these hormones that keep us in that way and keep us focused. Those hormones specifically, those chemical reactions in our bodies specifically keep us focused on things external to us. So it's just this cycle, right? And so unless you have something like what we're talking about here tonight, where you can sort of break in and break into that cycle and interrupt it long enough to reprogram those things. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that. So, we talked about how there's the mind and the body, and how do we approach breaking that cycle? Because you can approach it in either way. And
Mhm.
so we were talking about how traditionally, all of the approaches to this work have been from the mind down, like from starting with the mind. We're going to impact how we're thinking in order to impact how we're feeling. So we're going to do affirmations, we're going to do all of the journaling, we're going to do all of these workbook exercises. We're going to get really into the analytical aspect of figuring out who we are inside. That's the traditional path and what we see a lot of people doing. And then Katie talked a little bit about the somatic approach and what we are doing through embodiment.
Yeah. Well, and so, I mean, and just to name that those things are all wonderful things to do. It's just not enough by itself, because all it just consists of up here, and so much of what we've truly experienced is still here. It's neck down, right? And so much of that is stuff that our structured mind doesn't even have access to because it doesn't even remember it, right? Um, and so yeah, so what this work does, it fast tracks that. Like it's much more efficient because it's a whole picture to it's a whole picture approach, right? Instead of just the mind, because we are not just the mind. And so much like if you want to approach a system that is mind body, you have to approach both the mind and the body and the system. Yeah. So for instance, one of the things that I like to point to is breath work. So I'm like such a nerd about breath work and I love it so much. And I believe that it because of the way that it activates us in certain ways intentionally, it it brings us into this place where we are more able, it widens our capacity to withstand certain types of activation and certain experiences that are happening within the body, right? Also, it allows us any of our embodiment practices. The point, right, is to drop out of the structured mind long enough to get with what's here and like stay curious, because sometimes right at first you're going up against a lifetime of programming. Sometimes it doesn't happen right at first. Sometimes you'll have a ton of resistance to dropping in, and that's okay too. It's just like the more that you try different modalities and you do it, then you get to start to get really curious with, okay, what's here and how can I approach it from this place instead of from this place?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to name also that it's a learnable skill and something that we were not taught how to do in our lives prior to this. And so if you are struggling to sink into your body, struggling to feel that connection, to even feel sensations in your body, that's completely normal for a lot of people right now. And it's like going to the gym. You wouldn't expect to go to the gym and work out one time and have huge muscles. Like it takes time, it takes dedication, it takes practice. Um, and it's so enjoyable. Like it takes time and dedication and practice, but it's not the same as going to the gym in that regard because it's
Right.
much more enjoyable and at ease and in flow practice.
It is. And I think too, it's so much the solution to the problem that exists in this culture and in this culture, because we are so we're just keeping ourselves sick and we're cycling through that sort of powerlessness. Like we don't understand the power that we do have to take control here of the situation. And I don't mean control of like controlling things. I mean to step in and say like, I am not like at the mercy of some like genetic fate, right? Like I can step in and have my say when it comes to what's going on inside of my body and what's going on inside of my head and how these two things are interacting, and what I want to do with the energies that I'm finding are present there. um, and yeah, so I think also another point about that is that it's embodiment that is it's the thing that allows us to stay out of re-experiencing traumatic things from the past or imagining things in the future, because to be embodied you have to be right here right now. Like that is, it's only right here right now. It, so that in and of itself is, if you do it enough, it's like what we talked about earlier with like the small practices to do in the moment, things, tools to have in the moment, and then having a regular practice, because as you do that, you're training your system. You're training your system to widen its window of tolerance, to widen what you're able to hold and hold space for and work through and walk through, right? And it changes how you do those things, how you walk through it, right?
Yeah. And so, like, practical application of what Katie is saying is, so in a situation where you're very activated, where you get very angry, say you're angry at your kid or at your partner, they do something that makes you really angry. And in the past, you would immediately react and you would lash out at them in that situation. You're widening your window of tolerance means you're able to stay with that energy, stay with that feeling of anger in that moment, and decide what you want your response to be based on your value system,
Right.
based on what you want to do in your soul. So you're not having to really worry or think about whether or not you're making the right or wrong choice, once you get to that point, because you can trust that what you're saying, what you're acting on is a choice that you've made, not based on just the overwhelming anger that's coming out of you.
Right. And I mean, which is crucial because when we're in that state, we, especially if we're activated in a place of like fight or flight, our we don't have great access to our prefrontal cortex, which is where our logic and our reason lives. So we can't really reason with ourselves. So that's why, the people who get angry and they just say literally anything, things that they don't mean, or you say things that you don't mean, or whatever. I have a friend who used to say, I never did anything in anger and looked back at it later and thought that worked out well. And it's so exactly that's what it is though. It's like we get into that place, and since it's not, we can get there from thought alone, and it's not always that there's an actual danger at hand, but our body doesn't know that and our mind doesn't know that. And so our mind says, oh, we're in danger, and then we just want to explode. And these practices give us the ability to still honor the way that our systems are just the way that they work, and the way to go in and intentionally um feel the things, call that energy in, move the energy in and through the body so that you're free of it, and then you can go back to doing
Yeah,
the thing.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And too, I was thinking about whenever we like, because we have this tendency to be very in our mind. And again, I don't think that is through any fault of our own. It is how we are conditioned from birth to be, and it's how we are modeled, from previous generations to be. And in a lot of circumstances, it's how we are expected to behave in our society. Um, but when we do that, when we're in our overthinking, we get caught up a lot in the story of what is happening. So, like when we feel a feeling, say anger, we immediately jump to why am I feeling angry? We're thinking about the story around that. And
Right.
when we're doing that, when we're in our brain thinking of stories, we're usually either looking to the past, We're like looking to the past for examples or like knowledge of like what's going to happen in the future, or we're worrying about what's going to happen in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So either way, we're stepping out of the present moment experience of the emotion to think about the story of why it might be happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that the story is necessarily a bad thing. It's just bypassing the other half of it, which is our body and which is feeling and experiencing of that emotion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So instead of reacting, then we could, in an instant like that, doing something even as simple as stepping away for a couple of minutes, like maybe saying you need to go to the restroom or wherever, stepping away for a couple of minutes, taking a few deep breaths, like really being intentional with your breath and sinking into maybe like your heart space and envisioning that part of you that is feeling so pissed off and so activated, and just literally talking to that part of yourself and sending so much love to that part of yourself. So really dropping in, what is it? What's here? What's present? And being with it. And then maybe you want to add in some movement to move the energy through and allow for it to leave your body, so it's literally just like, what's here? What's present? What does this part of me need? And how can
Yeah.
I give it to it? Yeah.
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 And creating that space within us, like creating that safe space, cultivating that awareness, that safe, present awareness that basically, like whatever happens in my external environment, it doesn't matter. It can be total crap. And I've still got me. I'm still okay.
Right.
I'm still here. I'm still me.
Yeah. 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 And I think that's one of the things what you mentioned about a safe place. I think more on that, like on safe places in general. I think that's one of the reasons that it's so crucial to do this kind of work with a guide, or in a setting where you're being held and you're being held and you're being witnessed and experienced. Um, because it's what, so some of this work, like breath work, for instance, what we are doing with a lot of those breath patterns is intentionally activating that sympathetic nervous system, which is what is activated when we go into a fight or flight response, and intentionally activating that in a way that is safe, in a way that we know, like you were talking about, I have the capacity to hold this activation in my body. I have the capacity to hold whatever comes up right now in my
Mhm.
body. And I'm also being held. I have this other support. So if I need to let it go and just lose my shit, I can do that too because I'm being held. I'm being supported. And just allowing for whatever the experience is, like whatever needs to be expressed through your being, through your soma, is, and allowing for it. And like knowing that it's beautiful, and it's like your own little form of magic. So, but back to what I was saying with the breath work, we're literally activating that, going in, and again just widening what we have the capacity to not just like um walk through, but hold and carry and allow for, right? So yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking that.
Okay. So let's talk returning. Let's talk about it. We are so super excited because we had this kind of, I'm just going to say it's a divinely inspired idea to
Mhm.
come together and create a magical sisterhood for healing together. Um, Katie and I actually met on TikTok. We have only known each other like a month and a half or something like that. And we just really vibed, like instant soul connection, and decided to get on a Zoom. Originally, we were talking about starting a podcast, and Katie had this idea, why don't we start this community together? And that very same day, I had this vision of us leading this embodiment practice slash breathwork session. And I was like, man, it would be so cool to work with Katie in that capacity. Like, I don't know how or why, but I just feel like we're going to be working together in that way somehow. And then, boom, she asks me, do you want to start this community together? And I'm like, yes, 100% yes. Full body, yes, I'm totally in. Let's do it. So we are launching next month, returning. It will be a low cost membership for women to step into our world and really come into our embrace and into the embrace of your sisters and come for the healing and stay for the magic.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
into your own embrace, right? Like that's the sweet spot. And going back to what I was just saying, like about doing this work with a community and in a way where you can be, there's something so powerful. This work is powerful in and of itself, by itself, right? Like you do it. It's also hard. It can be really hard sometimes. So it's nice to have the support. And uh it's like I said, it's magical and powerful when you do it by yourself and when you do it with others and you can literally feel like that energy like coursing through you. The what happens with the collective energy and what happens there when you're experiencing and processing and all of it's happening and you are being held and witnessed in that. Um, there aren't words to describe that. There just are not words. Plus, um, what our main heart in this, I think, our main mission in this, beyond the sisterhood even, is that this work has been so transformative and expansive in so many ways for both of us in our personal lives, in our careers, in our healing, and our, our relationships, everything. It's touched every aspect of my life and who I am. And we believe that this is the solution to the issue that exists in our culture, this huge issue of disconnect and people walking around with so much pain, having absolutely no idea who they are at their core, and
And having no support, no
having no
support.
support. And from that place being very isolated off from not just others, but also like the experience that they came here to have, right? So this work is life-changing in every single possible way. And I truly believe that this is how we heal the world, right? And so Allie and I met and we were both talking about being so passionate about wanting to get to carry this message, to carry this work, because even somatics, like we were talking about earlier, somatics and the study of somatics and all of it is the practices, some of the practices are centuries old, especially in the East. Where we're concerned, though, it's very new to us and to our systems and our way of being. It's very different. And we want to carry it to as many people as possible because it almost feels like once you have this knowing, this awareness of this work and the power that it carries, it almost feel like a responsibility to share it. And then we both have this calling. We both have this calling of mentorship and guide, being a guide for others in this way and this in a spiritual way. And so we thought what better thing to do than to put this work into a sistership where women not only have the community, have each other and everything, they also have access to both of us and make it so affordable that it makes sense for anyone, right? Because as much as we value this work and the transformation that it offers and that it holds and that it carries, and we do have other programs that are not low ticket programs because we value that, right? And it doesn't, we still wanted to be sure that we had something to offer because this work shouldn't be exclusive to people who can afford it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
should be for people who want it.
Every single person who desires this work should have access to it. Every single woman deserves to feel whole and complete on her own. You deserve to come home to you if you're ready, like if and when you are ready. And we wanted to create a space for you to do that.
To do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on, like 100%. And that's where our heart is right now. And we're so amped up about it and so psyched about it. And we'll be doing so much. I mean, it's a body-based membership. So when it's somatic, when I say somatic, I just mean like of the body, right? Like So it's all about truly ripping, like dropping out of the all of the structures, the structured mind, all of the expectations and the pressures and the programming and just all of it, and remembering and coming home to your truth and to who you are at your core and what is there and what wants to be born through you, and
Yeah.
what are you here to do and experience and be and like that, right? Like that, just honoring that, being there.
Yeah, get to a place where we can stop trying to be a certain way, trying to be this or that in our lives, and just allow ourselves to express through, like allow your essence to express through you,
Mm.
and just enjoy it, enjoy the process, and enjoy life and enjoy the ride.
Right, right. And yeah, in the way that this work touches literally like we touched on, we scratched, didn't even scratch the surface of what it does for you physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, like all of the things, the way that it, so it's not just like, you know, um it's like deeply profound and meaningful, especially when you do it with a bunch of women. It just is.
Hmm.
It's like we were made to come together and heal one another and walk each other home. It's
Absolutely.
literally like in our DNA to do those things. So when we do that, it is magic. It is just magic. So we're so excited. We're so excited.
So we're going to have weekly sacred sisterhood circles where we'll do embodiment practices, we'll do topics and teachings, we'll hang out, we'll chat, we'll do Q&A and, hot seat coaching for anybody who has specific problems or questions going on in their lives. And then we'll have weekly embodied dance parties as well. I am a certified dance instructor, chair dance, and soon to be pole dance. Then we'll be doing all kinds of dance and embodied practices as well as breath work and embodied dance practices as well. And then we're going to have a video library where we'll have a ton of videos so you guys can do them anytime on your own. Um, and then what else? There's so much else. So there's going to be a spiritual book club that meets quarterly. And um,
We'll do like we'll eventually we're gonna have some guest speakers come in. We're gonna do some like pop-ups in the morning time and stuff like that. The main stuff will be the weekly calls and the dance parties and just the community. You're gonna have a community where you can go and chat with your sisters and post and do all kinds of things in our little sistership that we're building out. It's gonna be beautiful.
yeah, and super low cost, only $22 a month. So really affordable for any person who's ready for this work, ready to come home to themselves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, and we're gonna wrap up with Allie's gonna take us through a meditation, and then we're gonna go into some dance. And I want to say really quickly about the dance. Um, I guess I don't really need to say that anymore. Just never mind. Go ahead.
Okay. So once Katie puts the dance or the music on for the dance, invitation to either stay seated or to stand up. Move if you want to move. If you're uncomfortable being on camera, go ahead and turn your camera off. There's no pressure here. You're invited to just let your body lead the way.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and get started with our meditation. We'll just kind of take a moment to get yourself comfortable. You can sit, you can stay seated, or you can lie down for this practice. And drop in, closing the eyes down if that's comfortable for you. And taking a moment to turn your attention inward, finding the gentle rise and fall of your breath. You can bring a hand to your chest and one to your belly if that's helpful. And we're not looking to change the breath or to control when we take a breath in or when we take a breath out. Simply noticing as our beautiful, magical body breathes for us, finding the rhythm of breathing, riding the wave of your breath, noticing as your chest expands and rises as you take a breath in, and noticing the fall, the gentle fall as you exhale. Staying with your breath for a few moments, just arriving in your body, becoming familiar with your own rhythm. And we'll begin our practice with 3 deep intentional breaths, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Breathing deeply in through the nose, fully expanding your chest. And as you exhale, deep sigh out, allowing any sound to come out, fully relaxing down. Inhale again, filling completely. Exhale and sigh out. Last time, inhale. Fully release and relax. And bring your hands down to knees. And imagine you are in an open field, noticing whatever comes to your mind. Maybe there are wildflowers or tall pines. Maybe there's sun peeking through, or there's shade from the tall trees. Noticing how it feels to be in this field, feeling the sun on your face, the wind in your hair. And you notice in the center of this field, there's a mirror. And you walk towards this mirror. And as you get closer, you notice that in the mirror, you can see into the life of your highest self. And as you peer through this mirror, you begin to watch a day in the life of your highest self, the me that you want to be. You notice as she opens her eyes, how she feels about her day. You watch her as she begins her morning routine. You notice how she interacts with others, how she talks to herself, how she handles the stressors of her day. Your highest self begins to walk towards this mirror, and you are standing face to face. Taking a moment to notice not only what she looks like, but notice her energy, notice her frequency, notice her mood, her aura. Feel deeply this energy in your body. Step through the mirror and step into this energy, becoming familiar with this frequency, with this feeling, relaxing into her energy. You walk as your highest self around the room that you are in and sit down in the most beautiful chair, leaning back against the chair, taking a moment to feel your body connect with the chair, bringing your attention to the back of your head, to the back of your skull, noticing what the back of your head feels like, the back of your neck, the back of your shoulders, down into your upper back, your mid back, feeling deeply the sensations in your lower back and in your hips, resting back in this chair like you are resting on your throne. Fully releasing, coming home to the truth of your power. Feeling deeply the energy of your highest self, and noticing how you already have access to this energy within your body. You are feeling it right now. Your highest self is not a goal to be achieved, not a finish line to be crossed. It is a frequency to tune to rest into. Your highest self is your home. Take a moment to think of an affirmation from the perspective of your highest self. I will be using the affirmation, I am home. And we will end our practice with 3 deep intentional breaths. This time, as we take our deep inhale, we will think of our affirmation. And as we exhale and sigh out, we will pause to feel this feeling. Taking a deep breath in through the nose, filling completely with air, feeling the lungs expand. Exhale, feeling that feeling, tuning to that energy. Inhale again. I am home. And feeling deeply. Last time, deep inhale. I am home. We'll get the music started for our dance now. Invitation to stay here. Bowel movement, but don't force it. Closed, open them up. Let your body lead the way. Listen to the lyrics of this song, just sink in and enjoy.
Voice of the future, speak to me kindly. Ask for what I want, and somehow it find me. Somehow it find me. Somehow it find me. Yeah, hey, hey. I am woman, I am fearless, I am sexy, I'm divine. I'm unbeatable, I'm creative, honey. You can get in line. I am feminine, I am masculine, I am anything I want. I can teach you, I can love you if you get it going on. If you got it, got it, got it, got it, got it, got it. If you got it, got it, got it, got it, got it going on. If you got it, got it, got it, got it, got it, got it. If you got it, got it, got it, got it, got it going on. Got it going on. Got it, got it, got it, got it, got it going on. Got it, got it, got it, got it, got it going on. Yeah, yeah. Eat no evil, speak no evil. I am not the one to close. We can talk that shit about you long as you know that it's false. I am earthly, I am heaven. I am what I like to be. When I ask for what I want, somehow it find me. Somehow it find me. I am woman, I am fearless, I am sexy, I'm divine. I'm unbeatable, I'm creative, honey. You can't get in line. I am feminine, I am masculine, I am anything I want. I can teach you, I can love you if you got it going on. If you got it, got it, got it, got it. Got it, got it, got it going on. Got it going on. Got it going on. Got it going on.
It was beautiful, 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 beautiful. I love it. Love that song so much. We want
Yay!
to, first of all, thank everyone so much for coming and taking the time to, jump in and learn a little bit more about how you can start to come home to yourself. And also name that after doing embodiment practices like we've done here today, even just these short, small ones, a lot can still shift. Your frequency can change entirely. And so it can be a really beautiful time to journal or just sit in what is present and the energy that is present, and let whatever you've taken away from the experience truly land and settle into your system and find a place and a home there. Yeah. And so same with journaling, just like for the purposes of integration, so that you can really take the experience and sort of just plant it into your system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. And so if you are interested in returning, you can visit our website to get on the wait list. It's returningsisterhood.com. We'll be launching in June, so look out for that. And we are so excited to have you guys tonight. Thank you for coming. See you soon.
Bye, everyone. Bye.